Hey, welcome back. This is G-Man here, Pigskin Paisanos. Today we're going to go over 3 games for Week 3 regular season starts and sits. I'm going to get into the Miami Dolphins at the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to get into the Cincinnati Bengals at the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions at the Philadelphia Eagles. So let's start. Miami Dolphins. To anyone who's been paying attention to the NFL or to fantasy football knows that this team is selling everybody they got for future draft capital. They just recently got Ryan Fitzpatrick. This team is trying to go tank so hard. So with that said, there is nobody on the Miami Dolphins offense that I could tell you that you'll start. Josh Rosen might eventually get the start in this team, but it doesn't matter at this point. They're playing Dallas Cowboys, pretty good team at Dallas. I'm not going to tell you to start anybody. For the Dallas Cowboys, you see what happened in the first 2 games that the Baltimore Ravens were able to do against this Miami defense and the New England Patriots. Just obliterate them, destroy them. So that means for quarterback, you're going to start Dak Prescott. For running back, you're going to start Ezekiel Elliott. You're going to start Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup is kind of dealing with a slight meniscus injury that he had to go get operated on. Nothing too serious, but he's not going to be in this game. They're going to put in Devin Smith to be his replacement, but I'm not going to tell you to start him. And they got Randall Cobb, who's been a sneaky play. He's done okay so far. So I'd say you could probably even flex him at this point. And for sure, I'll say start the Dallas defense as well. So moving on to the second game that I was going to talk about in this video, the Cincinnati Bengals playing the Buffalo Bills. Cincinnati's offensive line has been pretty horrible as expected, but with that said, they've been able to actually do pretty well in the passing game. Andy Dalton already has racked up over 700 passing yards in those first 2 games he's had. So with that said, I'm going to say you can start the red-headed dragon Andy Dalton because he's been doing really well. Buffalo Bills are a good defense, but I would say just because he's playing as well as he has, you're going to start him. Could be a 2-quarterback option, or if you have no one better, maybe it's your QB1 because he has been doing well with some fantasy performances. And that's going to lead me to unfortunately say someone who I'm so high on as a player, but just because had a little bit of injury flare-up last week. He seems to be okay now, but that offensive line has just been so bad. And I'm going to say you got to sit Joey Mixon. Could he play well? Of course, he's one of the best talents in the league, but it just seems like right now that offensive line is so bad, so I just do not trust having Joey Mixon in the lineup. Maybe you put him in as a flex, but he is not performing at where you probably drafted him. AJ Green is still out, so that means the wide receivers that are available to you are going to be Tyler Boyd and John Ross III. They both had pretty good weeks so far, so you're going to start both of them. Okay, so moving on to the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, he's having a pretty good sophomore year so far. I would say start him because he shows you that he not only has obviously that passing production, but is a pretty good runner too. Definitely gets in a lot of attempts on the ground. So definitely start him. I would say due to the fact that Devin Singletary I think is going to be limited with an injury if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, Devin Singletary is going to be limited with a hamstring injury, and which sucks because especially with a running back, anytime they have those lower leg injuries, that's going to definitely linger, unfortunately. So old man Frank Gore, I mean, you saw with Devin Singletary not really getting a lot of touches, and they told you before the season started, Sean McDermott and them they're gonna give the veteran the starting role in this timeshare. So he had 19 rushing attempts, didn't do too crazy with it, had a couple catches, but I'd say you could actually start Frank Gore just because there's really not too many people that are gonna cut into his work. Maybe TJ Yeldon a little bit, but without Devin Singletary there, I think you could start Frank Gore. And the other option I would say to start is John Brown. John Brown's actually looked really good in these first 2 weeks. Zay Jones has been kind of quiet. Cole Beasley got a little bit involved last week, but only had 4 targets, nothing crazy. Robert Foster, some people were looking forward to him maybe having a breakout year this year, but hasn't really gotten anything done. So I would say start him as well, and start this defense, just because this defense has done pretty well, getting after the quarterback, forcing interceptions, like talked about earlier. This Cincinnati Bengals offensive line is terrible. So Andy Dalton's actually had a couple fumbles already this early on. He had 1 fumble last year. He's already had 3 just in 2 games. So I think this could be a good matchup for the Bills defense as well. All right, so moving on into the last game, the Detroit Lions at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Detroit offense is interesting because they have a lot of weapons and a lot of guys that could be fantasy relevant. But for this matchup, even though Philadelphia hasn't been too great against the pass, I'm going to say you start Matt Stafford. I'm going to say for running back, you start Kerryon. The news just was recently, shared out into the world that C.J. Anderson got dropped. So that really just kind of leaves Ty Johnson as the only real competition for Kerryon Johnson. So if you're worried maybe about Kerryon, you maybe want to go out there and just handcuff Ty Johnson if he's on waiver wire, just in case if something was happening to Kerryon, you have his replacement right there who has some pass catching ability as well. Kenny Golladay seems like in his first 2 games he's doing really well. Might actually have that breakout season. He kind of showed you it last year a little bit, that he could have a real breakout season this year. He's already got a couple touchdowns, so he's definitely someone I would say you can start. Marvin Jones I would say to start too, just because it seems like they're giving him some targets, and he's always had touchdown ability. He had a red zone opportunity last game. And as I said before, this Philly defense hasn't been too great against the pass this year, so I'd say start Marvin Jones as well. I'd say sit Danny Amendola. Could be, he had a really good week 1, kind of quiet week 2, so it's up in the air. I wasn't really too high on him this year anyway, but I'd say for now maybe just sit him. And T.J. Hockenson, he's going to be someone I would say sit, but if you don't really have a better option, then I guess start him. But I'm not really sure. It seems like the tight ends that have versed this Philly defense so far, granted, they're not the best in the whole NFL, but Vernon Davis and Austin Hooper kind of limited in the amount of production that they got in the 2 matchups that Philly has played so far, when it was against the Falcons and the Redskins. So TJ is someone that, again, as I said, if you don't have a better option, then you put him in. But if you can, just maybe sit him. And moving on into this Philadelphia offense, Carson Wentz definitely gets a start for me. Jordan Howard, I would say sit. Miles Sanders could be someone you sneak in as a flex play. He hasn't done a whole lot with the amount of reps that he's gotten, but because he actually has a 3-down skill set, whereas Jordan Howard doesn't. Jordan Howard last week kind of limited with the amount of touches that he got. Miles Sanders still getting a good amount of touches, so it's a possibility. You could flex him, because I'm sure as the season goes on, he will get more and more of the work and probably actually start to capitalize on the work that's been given to him, especially with opportunity and talent and this offense in general. But moving on to that, it looks like that this offense is kind of banged up. It looks like you're going to be missing Deshaun Jackson, and you're going to be missing Alshon Jeffrey for a couple weeks, so that kind of leaves things in the hands of Nelson Aguilar, who had a pretty good game last week, so I'd say give him a start. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside didn't have too much, but I'd say you can potentially flex him as well, just because of this matchup. Detroit's defense is okay, but I think they've given up a decent amount of yards in the past, so I think you could even put in Arcega-Whiteside as well. And then, of course, for your tight end there, Zach Ertz, not even a question, you're going to start him. So that's going to wrap it up for this video today with the 3 games I just went over between the Miami Dolphins playing the Dallas Cowboys, Cincinnati Bengals playing the Buffalo Bills, and the Detroit Lions playing the Philadelphia Eagles. Catch us on the next one, and have a good one. Peace.